As 2014 looms, President Obama has said that the US will be pulling out its frontline troops. But are they really pulling out? And will the Taliban return?
Innocent people are getting killed through these night raids, through these drones, aeroplanes.
So now I'm back in the base suit area, trying to find the downed drone, where I've had reports from some of the locals that they do know where it is. And what now for Hamid Karzai, who comes to the end of his term in a country where 1/3 of the GDP is tied up in the narcotics industry? On this week's INFocus, I travel to Afghanistan to find out. So here I am in downtown Kabul, armed with just a tourist visa and my palm camera. I've come to find out just what is going on in Afghanistan, with the Americans saying they're leaving in 2014. But are they? And Hamid Karzai coming to the end of his term in 2014. But will he step down? And what about the Taliban? Are they just biding their time, waiting for a civil war? The American war on terror has now cost over $3 trillion, with thousands of lives lost. So what does the future hold for this war-torn country? On October the 7th, 2001, the United States, along with a coalition force, invaded Afghanistan, taking Kabul in a matter of weeks, the Taliban leadership fleeing into neighbouring Pakistan. Now, 11 years later, after the loss of tens of thousands of lives, President Obama has said that the majority of frontline troops will be pulled out of Afghanistan by 2014. However, the truth is that 65,000 special forces will be staying through to 2020, along with 5 major US airfields in 5 different provinces, some with contracts right through to 2024. This was the view from the aeroplane window just as I was leaving Kandahar Airport, a mere tidbit of the hardware available to the US, with their airfields full of fighter jets, attack helicopters, and maybe even the occasional bomber. And this besides the notorious drones that take off on a nightly basis with continuous attacks into neighbouring Pakistan, and in particular Waziristan. Soon after my arrival in Kabul, I was very lucky to meet up with the former Prime Minister of Afghanistan, Ahmad Shah Ahmadzai. He was the Prime Minister between 1992 and 1996, under President Rabbani. I started by asking him about the current situation.
We are complaining from the invasion and invaders. Afghanistan is invaded by NATO, by America, by British, especially these 2 big countries, America and British. They are not doing well with the people of this country. Means they are killing them. Innocent people are getting killed through these night raids, through these drones, aeroplanes. They are killing children, women, and men. When you ask them why, they said, we are here to do this. What else we should do? Mr. Karzai is saying, no, this is not good for our country. He says, no, who are you? So they have signed treaty. The military treaty means that in the dark night, after middle of the night, 2 people, Obama and Karzai, signed the treaty. This is completely against the will of the Afghan nation, and we are completely, we dislike it.
The divide between rich and poor in Kabul is only too easy to see, as this water collection point illustrates, though there are thousands of cars around and families make do with any extra space. Well, I'm now on my way to visit Mr. Ramazan Bazadost, a former planning minister for Afghanistan and a possible contender in the next election in 2014. Bazadost studied in Iran and spent 20 years in France and has a PhD in law. You're famous for making the statement, money is the law in Afghanistan, but corruption, it's the only country where corruption is legal.
It is legal.
Yes.
In fact, it is practically legal. When you go in the Afghan administration, for example, you want an identity card or a passport. So the clerk or employer said it is okay, you return, for example, with your identity card or the passport for photo, for example. And also, for example, 1,000 Afghani or 2,000 Afghani. So he said openly to give the money as a condition to have a passport. So it is a reason that I think and I say in Afghanistan the corruption, it is in fact legal, because you can ask openly in your office in publicly.
Wali Karzai, he was killed 1 year ago in Kandahar.
Karzai brother.
In Kandahar, yes. What you think was because of corruption?
We have not proved what was the real reason. So there is a lot of rumor, there is a lot of speech by Afghan people, but nobody give a proof the real reason for this assassination or this.
Some people say he was in the narcotics business.
Everything we can say in Afghanistan, but we have not a documentary proof until today, for example.
Well, it's a rather mild evening here in Kabul, and I've finally got myself an interview with Dr. Abdullah Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah Abdullah came second in the 2009 elections to Karzai, even though, of course, the votes were supposed to be rigged. He gave in, though, and did not ask for a recount, which was rather suspicious at the time, so we'll ask him about that. Dr. Abdullah Abdullah got his name when he was sick of Western journalists asking him. He only had one Abdullah, and he was sick of Western journalists asking him what his second name was, so he just said it's Abdullah. So now he's known as Dr. Abdullah Abdullah. When one comes second in an election, it's important to have heavy security surrounding your house. Dr. Abdullah Abdullah was no exception. Of course, there's everyone's question on everyone's lips is the corruption in the last election. Was the 2009 election rigged?
Absolutely. It was rigged in a way that it was beyond any doubt or any question. And that was the biggest corruption, perhaps.
Why did you not ask for the recount? Why did you not stamp your foot on the table and say, I demand a recount now that you're telling me you're so sure it was fixed?
There was no need for recount because President Karzai didn't get 50% of the vote. His vote was not was below 50%, so he didn't win. So if somebody wins and then you ask for recount, that's a different issue. But his vote was already below 50%. So, but at the same time, if you're talking about a runoff election, there, of course, I refrained from going to elections for the second round because the same rigging would have taken place once again.
So a bit like a child who's told to clean his bedroom up, but he says it's only going to get dirty again, so why should I clean it up?
It was. You can use any example, but it was absolutely sure that the rigging will happen.
And next time in 2014, Karzai, by constitution, comes to the end of his term. Will the elections be rigged again?
I hope not. I hope not.
Any way to stop it?
So I have no doubt in my mind that President Karzai has not evolved from a person who widely rigs the elections from another person. There is no evolution from one person which is rigging the elections and to the other person which believes in democratic principles and rule of law and justice. Nothing, no such an evolution has taken place.
Nobody knows just how much of the billions in aid actually gets spent benefiting the people of the country, but the United Nations estimates that only around 20% ever gets to where it should. Unemployment in the country hovers at around 40%, with estimations that up to 70% of the population is illiterate. I then went to meet with Richard Pendry, who used to work for the United Nations out here, but is now an author and an historian. I asked him about corruption.
You can only speculate of where it's gone really. I mean, there's a lot of rumours that there are huge bank accounts all over the world deposited from money that have been skimmed off from the aid and development money, but that's all speculation. But I think everybody is aware that there is a high level of corruption in this country.
The next day, I went to meet Mohammed Mahakik, the leader of the People's Islamic Unity Party of Afghanistan. He represents the 20% Shia population of Afghanistan, and in an election could probably rely on most of their votes. I asked him what would happen in 2014 after the Americans say they are leaving.
حالا خب فعلا امریکایی‌ها میگن که ما یک پیمان استراتژیک امضا میکنیم با افغانستان و مفاد از این پیمان ما میبریم میریم. اینطوری چیز میگن. یعنی گویا رفتنشان به این معناست که گویا قضایا مطلوب است، اونا در شرایط عادی میرن. اما وضعیت از دیدگاه مردم افغانستان قسم دیگه هست. چون وقتی شوروی هم که از افغانستان رفت، اونا فرار کردن نرفتن. اونا یک پیمان امضا کردن با دکتر نجیب، حکومت امضا کردن و قول دادن که بعد از رفتن هم کمک میکنه افغانستان، یعنی دولت نجیب. و همون کارم کردن. 3 سال دیگه بعد از اون حکومت نجیب کمک کردن و سرانجام سقوط کرد. حالا اگر امریکا ترک کنه برویم بگه که من شما را کمک میکنم مالی مثلا اقتصادی، اونو عین اون رفتن اتحاد شوروی است. سرنوشت حکومت آقای کرزی زیاد تفاوت نمیکنه با حکومت دکتر نجیب.
The Taliban. Well, the Taliban are no longer the once large organised force they used to be. There are now many different factions, each with their own agenda. But first and most notably must be Mullah Omar's Taliban, based in the southwest. The US have a bounty for $10 million on Mullah Omar's head, but he has suspiciously not been seen for a number of years and is rumoured to be hiding out somewhere near Quetta, Pakistan. Then there's the Haqqani network up there in Waziristan, the family-led gang who fled to Pakistan after the invasion, apparently by all accounts financed by the ISI, intelligence unit of Pakistan. They're led by Jalaluddin Haqqani and are under constant threat from US drone attacks. The third group worth a mention are Gulbuddin Hekmati's Hezbi Islami group, numbering in their thousands and based in the east of Afghanistan. Once again a hangover from the Mujahideen days, they have claimed responsibility for many suicide attacks, as well as attempts to assassinate Hamid Karzai himself. Driving up to Haji Mahajid's house and knowing that he had been a key figure in the Taliban, I was a little nervous, though on meeting him to ask him to describe the Taliban, my fears were soon expelled.
I think so far, the Taliban Islamic movement, they are working unitedly. All the Taliban in different provinces of Afghanistan, they are working under one command, under the command of Mullah Muhammad Umar Mujahid. I do not see that there are any independent group working independently without the leadership of the Taliban Islamic movement.
Miss Mullah Omar.
Yeah.
And what about there's the Haqqani network in Pakistan? Haqqani fam?
Yes, Haqqani network is famous in the media, but several times this network, they themselves, it itself declared that they are working under the leadership of the Taliban Islamic movement. They are not working independently.
And the same with Gulbuddin.
Hizb Islami under the leadership of Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, yes, certainly. It is working independently in Afghanistan. They have their factions here inside the government, and also they are fighting outside of the government against the world community and the government of Afghanistan.
Just a day or so after my arrival, I hear about a drone that has apparently crash-landed in a residential part of Jalalabad, about 3 hours' drive west of Kabul and only 2 hours from the Pakistan border. I headed down to Jalalabad to see if I could locate it. Taking the 3-hour drive from Kabul to Jalalabad involves taking the long mountain road, descending 1,800 meters or so down into the valley. Parallel to this valley is the village of Gandamak, made famous for being the place where roughly 4,500 British troops were annihilated back in 1842 on their way to Jalalabad. There was only one survivor. Well, here we are in Jalalabad. It's about 1:30, it's about 42 degrees, and we've arrived just in time for lunch in this wonderful little kebab shop that my drivers found.
روجي میاشتې روجي سر کې یا مېس یا اخره کې کوم ټیم کې اوس معلومات لري کوم د پیلوټ تیارې ورزيدلې ولته دې ساحه کې چیرته.
So now I'm back in the base suit area, trying to find the downed drone, where I've had reports from some of the locals that they do know where it is, and we're going in this rickshaw because earlier somebody wrote down the number of our car, so we can't go in that car, we have to go in the local rickshaw transport. I've been brought in my trusty rickshaw here to this downtown car spray shop, a garage just down from the airfield where the drones take off. Here on the ground is where the Americans dragged out the drone with chains and a vehicle, and here's the track marks to show you where they dragged it out of the junkyard here.
واقع خود څه پیښه یو لګیدله او دا جز دا خانه رالی او دغه بالکل حالات خراب ډی ټیټ رالی او بس رالی په دې دغه من نه وته بس دا جالم خراب.
And how long before the Americans came to take it away?
دا اول رال لغه اردو راغلی و ولیدو سره دوه تیاری دي پاس ګرځېدي.
This is the debris, all that's left of the drone that was came down here last Wednesday. That evening, I went out into Jalalabad to witness how the people are trying to get on with their lives, including the eating of delicious ice cream. So now I've come back to the tailors who yesterday started making me the Pashtun Shalwar kameez that I'm going to wear down to Kandahar. Let's take a look and see what it looks like. How's the Shalwar's kameez coming on? Good? It's ready? Yes. So just what are the reasons for the US and the NATO's continual annexing of this country? Firstly, it soon becomes clear that much of the country has simply been bought by America with the billions in aid money that's pumped into the economy year after year. Behind all the security fences and barbed wire lies the offices for all the NGOs, banking, telecommunications, construction, arms, engineering and so on. Just recently, the Pentagon produced a report that shows that Afghanistan holds over $1 trillion in untapped mineral wealth: lithium, gold, silver, iron and copper. But believe it or not, it's not just for the Afghans' wealth that the Americans are here. Let's look at Afghanistan's strategic position on the globe. Surely the value of having 5 airfields with the capability to launch a conventional or even nuclear attack on any of these neighbouring countries is worth more in power terms than even the trillions worth of US taxpayers' money spent so far. In fact, you could say that the business side of the deal just means that for the US government, Afghanistan washes its own face. Well, the news down here in Kabul this evening is that General John Allen is coming over from the Pentagon to speak to Hamid Karzai about the green-on-blue situation where alone this year 40 soldiers have been killed by their own trained Afghan forces. Tomorrow, NATO is having a press conference which I'm going to try and attend, as they will not give me an individual interview, as I've been trying all week to get one.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, salam, good morning to all of you. It's my pleasure to welcome you today for the media roundtable on regard to the Afghan Public Protection Force.
Yeah, I think, can I ask, on the green on blue thing, which it is clearly we're talking about the green on blue thing, the position now that 40 soldiers have lost their lives, more than the entire time last year, and that the NATO troops in all of the bases and all of the headquarters are now being told to be armed 24 hours a day, it's not clear and abundantly clear that the trust between the teachers and the pupils is now at an all-time low. And how on earth can we now expect to be in a secure position to be able to hand over the trust of the 33 million people in this country to the pupils, the Afghan forces, in just over 2 years' time?
And so I guess the first point I'd make to your comment or your question is that, number one, while you cite the 32 or 34 incidents that have occurred with coalition forces, this has also had a significant impact on Afghan forces. So not only are coalition forces affected by this, Afghan forces are affected as well. So the trust and partnership has to be there for us to begin to arrive at a solution for this new tactic that's being employed by the insurgency. That's all it is. It's a new tactic in which they are trying to render some effects. But the training aspect will have to go on, because we are continuing to move towards training an Afghan force of about 353,000 of ANSF that will provide the security for this country. So upon our departure, if this insider threat remains, then it's going to be necessary for the Afghans to be able to deal with the insider threat, because it will affect their forces and to a minimal effect on the remaining coalition forces. So we're working this jointly. We're working this jointly from an angle of how we can attack it from an intelligence perspective, how we can attack it from a training perspective and a vetting perspective as well.
So in a nutshell, what you're saying... My apologies, yeah. After the translator had finished, the other general asked me to wait until the end to discuss my point further. But what I was about to say to the general was that, in a nutshell, what he was saying was that although NATO and America had created the mess, it would be up to the Afghans to clear it up. Did he really care? I don't think so.
Somebody should ask why they are doing this. Because these young boys, they know now, they have understood that my country is invaded by these NATO forces, by these NATO generals, and they are killing them. This is their own. I didn't tell him. Nobody has told him to go and kill him, but he knows this. They are wise and they are now mature to see, is my country, am I a free or a slave? They are thinking they are the slave, they are not free. So he has to get rid of those who are keeping them as a slave.
So in your eyes, justified, they're justified those?
Yes, it's justified. There is a justification. And if they are continuing this kind of death, it will increase. It will not decrease.
So, the Americans not really leaving, a confused NATO and the possibility of a civil war. Afghanistan is not looking good. As I leave Kabul and prepare myself for the second part of my journey, travelling to Kandahar to discover all about the narcotics business, the CIA and the spiritual home of the Taliban.